There are exactly 3 words that can make even the strongest, most confident woman's heart skip a beat in terror when spoken by a man. Not "I hate you," not "you're ugly," something far more psychologically devastating that cuts deeper than any insult ever could. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal these phrases that have been weaponized throughout history, why they work so effectively, and the dark truth about why women's brains are literally wired to fear them. But first, let me tell you about Sarah. Men often ask, what do women want to hear? But Machiavelli would ask instead, what do they fear to hear? Because fear, not desire, reveals the truth of power. In love, as in politics, words are weapons. Some wound softly, others shatter illusions. Today, we strip away charm and sentiment to uncover the words that make a woman uneasy. Not because they are cruel, but because they are true. In every game of human nature, truth is the most dangerous weapon, and the rarest one a man dares to use. When a man begins to see through illusion, he becomes something women both desire and dread, because truth, in its rawest form, strips away the layers of charm, strategy, and emotional performance that most interactions depend on. You see, the world doesn't fear cruelty, it fears clarity, and no one fears it more than the one who benefits from confusion, a woman's influence. Her silent authority in the emotional realm rests on perception. She rules through suggestion, feeling, and timing. She doesn't dominate by force. She dominates by understanding what moves you. But when a man starts to speak from truth, not desire, that influence weakens. Because truth gives him sight she cannot manipulate. When you tell a woman the truth, she doesn't expect to hear something like, "I understand what you're doing," or "You don't need to pretend." You don't just reveal her behavior. You reveal that you are not hypnotized by it. That is the moment fear enters. Not fear of you as a person, but fear of losing control. Niccolò Machiavelli once said, "Men are driven by 2 principal impulses, either by love or by fear." Most men try to win love and avoid fear. But a Machiavellian man understands that fear, when born from truth, not threat, is far more stable. A woman cannot control the man who no longer seeks her affection as validation. He stands outside her power. Truth, when spoken calmly, disarms manipulation. Imagine you're in a conversation, and instead of reacting to her emotion, you respond with insight. She raises her voice. You stay silent. She tries to guilt you. You say, "You don't need to play that game." To her, those words are not sentences. They're awakenings. They tell her you've seen past the smoke, and once a man sees, he cannot unsee. That is what women fear hearing from a man, not because it hurts them, but because it forces them to confront the limits of their influence. They're used to men who chase, defend, explain. Men who fold under emotional intensity. But when a man speaks with unshaken truth, he doesn't collapse. He observes. He analyzes. He answers not from emotion, but from awareness. And awareness is the death of illusion. Think about it. What happens when a magician performs a trick and someone in the audience exposes it? The show collapses. The crowd no longer feels wonder, they feel reality. And reality, once seen, cannot be romanticized again. That's what truth does in relationships. It ends the performance. When you tell a woman, "I see you clearly," it's not arrogance, it's sovereignty. You're no longer reacting to her emotions, you're directing your own. And that simple shift turns her curiosity into uncertainty. Because she can sense that your attention, her most powerful weapon, is no longer available for free. Machiavelli would say this is the foundation of authority. The one who sees the nature of power, rather than its performance, is the one who commands it. And that's what the truth does. It reveals who truly holds power in the dynamic. When spoken without anger, without need, truth becomes an empire of its own. It reminds her that her influence only works on men who fear being alone with their own reality. And once you embrace that reality, her emotional kingdom begins to tremble. Because she realizes something she never wanted to face. The moment you stop fearing the loss of her affection is the moment she starts fearing the loss of her control. In every connection between man and woman, one truth hides beneath the surface. Whoever controls emotion controls the direction of the bond. A woman's strength has never come from physical power. It has always come from emotional intelligence, from her ability to sense, read, and redirect the feelings of others. That sensitivity isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's how she navigates the chaos of human nature. And when she meets a man, her first instinct is not to love him. It's to understand him, because to understand him is to know where his control ends and her influence begins. Watch closely how this plays out. In the early moments, she'll test his composure with curiosity disguised as affection. A small delay in reply, a subtle withdrawal of warmth, a quiet challenge meant to measure reaction. She doesn't do it consciously. It's the natural instinct of someone who survives by emotion. What she's really asking is, can I move him? Because if she can, she knows she can shape his behavior. And if she can't, something unsettling begins to form, a sense of uncertainty that she can neither predict nor dominate. When a man says, "I'm not here to prove anything," those words strike deeper than he realizes. To her, that sentence is a revelation. It means he's emotionally independent. He doesn't perform for her attention, and he doesn't collapse under silence. It means her emotional weapons, approval, withdrawal, affection, have limited effect. That is the moment when her confidence begins to shift from comfort to caution. Because women, whether they admit it or not, respect what they cannot easily control. Machiavelli understood this dynamic centuries ago, not through romance, but through politics. He observed that the ruler who could not be manipulated by emotion, by love, pity, or guilt, was the one who survived longest. The same principle applies here. A man who governs himself emotionally is immune to emotional siege. He can feel deeply but react slowly. He can be drawn in but never dragged down. And that calm presence unsettles those who rely on emotional turbulence to gain control. Think about how many men lose their power not because they lack strength, but because they cannot master their reactions. A woman raises her tone, and he mirrors it. She withdraws affection, and he chases. She questions his value, and he rushes to defend it. Every emotional reaction is a silent surrender, a confession that her influence still governs his state. But when he no longer dances to that rhythm, when he can listen to her chaos and remain composed, she feels the one thing she cannot fabricate: respect. It's in the calmness of a man that a woman recognizes real danger. Because calmness means strategy. It means that while she plays through emotion, he plays through observation. She argues to release tension. He studies to understand cause. And soon, she realizes something frightening. His silence isn't weakness, it's control. His lack of reaction isn't indifference, it's command. A woman's emotional power thrives on movement. Fluctuation, expression, drama. But a man who remains still in the storm becomes something different in her eyes. Not predictable, not soft, but sovereign. She cannot read him, and what cannot be rid cannot be ruled. His composure becomes his defense, and his restraint becomes his offense. The reason women fear hearing a man say, "You don't affect me the way you think you do," isn't because it's cruel. It's because it's final. It signals that the emotional battlefield she once dominated has become neutral ground. It means he has learned the one Machiavellian truth that separates power from submission. That control isn't about suppressing others, it's about mastering yourself. In love, as in war, emotions are both weapon and weakness. The one who understands them without drowning in them commands both the game and the players. A man who no longer reacts cannot be provoked. And one who cannot be provoked cannot be controlled. And when that realization dawns on her, when she sees that her emotional influence has no hold, what once was attraction turns into a cautious respect, and beneath that respect, a quiet fear of losing her only real advantage. When a man becomes indifferent, he doesn't lose interest, he gains vision. And that vision reflects everything a woman doesn't want to confront about herself. Indifference is not coldness. It's not cruelty. It's the stillness that comes after understanding too much. When a man truly understands the nature of affection, attention, and manipulation, something inside him changes. He stops reacting, not because he's numb, but because he finally sees the design behind the emotion. He realizes that most of what people call love is often negotiation in disguise, and that the one who appears detached often sees the most clearly. To a woman, indifference is unsettling because it removes her greatest source of influence, your attention. Every look, every reaction, every attempt to prove yourself feeds her sense of importance in the dynamic. But when that energy disappears, when your presence no longer validates her emotions, she faces a mirror she cannot control. And that mirror reflects her need for validation, her craving for emotional feedback, her dependency on being desired. Think about it. When a man says, "I don't need to convince you," he's not being dismissive. He's declaring independence. He's saying, "My value doesn't depend on your agreement." That kind of indifference cuts deeper than rejection, because rejection still means you care enough to respond. Indifference means you've stepped outside the emotional battlefield entirely. You've turned her tests into background noise, and your silence becomes more powerful than any declaration of interest. In that silence, something happens. She begins to question herself. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he chasing? Why doesn't he care? The mind that once controlled now starts to seek control. The power dynamic shifts, not through aggression, but through absence. Because in every relationship, the one who needs less always leads more. Machiavelli would have called indifference the art of unseen governance. The ruler who does not panic when the crowd turns against him, who does not beg for loyalty or love, holds more power than the one who constantly seeks approval. The same truth applies between man and woman. When she realizes your peace doesn't depend on her response, she faces the uncomfortable reality that her influence ends where your detachment begins. But indifference isn't just about ignoring someone. It's about transcending their ability to disturb your state. It's not passive, it's purposeful. You can still care, still appreciate, still enjoy her presence, but without being enslaved by it. You no longer react to emotion with emotion. You observe it, understand it, and decide whether it deserves a response. That's real power. The ability to choose how much of yourself to invest and when to withdraw. Women test constantly because they seek to measure emotional strength. Every moment of silence, every unexpected delay, every confident refusal is a mirror reflecting her own insecurity. And the more unbothered you remain, the more she begins to feel the truth she avoids. That her influence is only effective when you grant it space to operate. When you remove that space, the illusion collapses. The reason women fear indifference is because it exposes the imbalance hidden beneath attraction. They realize that what they called connection was often control, and what they called passion was often persuasion. Indifference turns desire into discipline, and that shift terrifies anyone who thrives on emotional reaction. It's the silent declaration that says, "You are free to come and go, but my peace will remain." To her, that's not rejection, it's reflection. She sees herself in your calm, and what she sees is a loss of power. because nothing unsettles someone who thrives on emotion more than a man who is no longer ruled by it. Indifference is not the death of interest. It's the rebirth of control. It tells her that her beauty, her charm, her words can move many men, but not the one who has already conquered his own desire. And once that realization hits, every attempt to regain his attention becomes a confession of how deeply she needs it. When a man becomes certain, desire stops ruling him, and that is the moment a woman realizes she can no longer define his worth. Certainty is rare in a world built on emotional guessing games. Most men move through relationships searching for approval, adjusting themselves to maintain affection, afraid that the smallest misstep will cost them connection. They call this love, but Machiavelli would call it weakness disguised as virtue. Because when a man's words are shaped by his desire to be wanted, he speaks not with conviction, but with fear. And fear, no matter how gentle it sounds, will always betray him. A woman feels this immediately. She can sense the difference between a man who knows his value and one who's trying to prove it. The first speaks slowly, calmly, without the hunger for reassurance. The second speaks quickly, always defending, always explaining. One commands respect, the other pleads for comfort. And women, by nature, are drawn to certainty. Not the arrogance that masks insecurity, but the quiet confidence of a man who knows where he stands and what he will not compromise. When a man says, "I know what I want, and it may not be you," those words strike deeper than any rejection could, because they remove her ability to test him. Every test a woman gives is a question of stability. Can I shake his direction? Can I bend his mind? Can I pull him off his path with emotion? But when your certainty stands firm, when you make it clear that your mission, your standards, and your peace are not for sale, she begins to feel a loss of control. Not because you've taken something from her, but because you've shown her she never owned it. Machiavelli wrote that the prince must act with firm purpose, even when uncertain, because indecision invites challenge. The same truth rules attraction. A man uncertain of his words invites chaos. A man firm in his principles commands alignment. When you stop chasing desire and start standing on decision, everything changes. You no longer seek permission to lead. You no longer chase affection to feel valuable. You simply are. And that presence, that calm authority, becomes magnetic. Desire makes men impulsive, but certainty makes them sovereign. Desire says, "I hope she likes me." Certainty says, "She can recognize my worth or miss it." Desire is emotional hunger. Certainty is strategic restraint. The difference is everything, because a woman who senses you're led by desire knows she can control you through scarcity. Withdraw attention, and you'll crumble. But when she sees you operate from certainty, she realizes you are not chasing emotion, you are guiding outcome. The truth is, women are not afraid of confident men. They are afraid of decisive ones. A confident man might still seek validation. A decisive man creates his own value. When you say, "This is what I want," you eliminate her favorite form of power, ambiguity. You leave no room for manipulation through confusion, no space for emotional games disguised as tests. She cannot bait you with affection or silence, because you have already chosen your direction before she entered your path. And that choice unsettles her, because it reverses the dynamic. She is used to being the one who selects, who evaluates, who controls the rhythm of desire. But now, she faces a man who looks at her not as a prize, but as a possibility, someone who must qualify for entry into his world. That subtle inversion of power is what makes her uneasy. It's no longer her game, it's yours. Certainty doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It speaks through the stability of action, the consistency of tone, the unshaken look in a man's eyes that says, "I am already enough." And that kind of presence disarms everything built on emotion. Because while desire burns out in moments, Certainty endures through storms. It doesn't need her attention to exist. It existed long before she appeared. And when she feels that truth, when she realizes that your direction won't bend to her emotion, she faces the one thing she can't easily handle. A man who doesn't just know what he wants, but knows what he will never surrender to get it. In a world where everyone fights to be heard, silence from the right man becomes a roar that cannot be ignored. Silence is not absence, it's presence refined. It's the mark of a man who no longer wastes energy explaining himself to those who have already chosen not to understand. When a woman meets such a man, her instincts are immediately disrupted because she's used to emotional noise. Words that plead, justify, persuade, defend. But when she faces a man who responds to conflict, not with reaction but with stillness, she begins to feel something rare and unfamiliar: accountability. Machiavelli once wrote that power is maintained not only through what is done, but through what is withheld. The same law applies to relationships. Every time you respond to disrespect, to games, to manipulation, you give attention, and attention is currency. It feeds the illusion that she can control your emotional state. But when you withdraw that currency, when your silence replaces argument, she begins to realize that she can no longer purchase your reaction. That realization cuts deeper than anger ever could. Silence unsettles because it creates a void, and people project truth into that void. A woman who's used to control through emotional reaction suddenly finds herself speaking into emptiness, and in that emptiness, she hears the echo of her own actions. She starts to wonder, did I go too far? Does he not care? Has he moved on? The silence forces reflection, and reflection forces discomfort, because now she must face her own behavior without distraction. Think about how men usually respond to tension. Most rush to explain themselves, to fix the situation, to regain favor. But that instinct only reveals dependence. The man who argues is still seeking outcome. The man who goes quiet has already accepted truth. His silence says, "You no longer have access to my energy." And that is the moment the dynamic shifts completely. Silence is feared because it cannot be manipulated. You can twist words, provoke emotion, exploit guilt, but you cannot control silence. It belongs entirely to the one who holds it. It's an invisible wall that separates power from persuasion. When a woman feels that wall, she recognizes a kind of dominance that doesn't need aggression, it needs distance. And that distance communicates everything words never could. A man who uses silence wisely understands timing. He doesn't withdraw to punish. He withdraws to preserve. He knows that explanation to the wrong person is like giving weapons to the enemy. Every extra word weakens authority. Every emotional outburst reduces respect. But silence leaves the other side questioning. It forces them to replay their actions, to analyze every moment, to seek meaning in the space you've created. Machiavelli would say that silence is the ruler's most elegant form of discipline. Because control over speech means control over perception. When you don't react, you force the world to react to you. And when a woman who once thrived on your response suddenly meets your calm detachment, her mind begins to chase the reason for it. She tries to provoke, to test, to break the wall. But each failed attempt deepens the impact. The silence grows heavier, more symbolic, more powerful. Eventually, she learns that silence isn't the absence of communication. It's the highest form of it. It speaks without needing defense. It ends the argument without declaring victory. It doesn't shout, but it leaves echoes that outlast every word. And that's what makes it feared. Because in silence, there's no negotiation left to play, no emotion left to weaponize. It's the mirror that shows her where her influence ends. When a man chooses silence instead of reaction, he isn't running away, he's standing taller. He's showing that his peace is not a debate, it's a boundary. And boundaries are not explained, they are enforced. A woman may try to fill that silence with her own words, but deep down, she knows she's no longer speaking to the same man. The one who used to chase has learned the final Machiavellian truth about power. It doesn't always speak, but it never begs. In the kingdom of human emotion, love is the battlefield, but power decides who survives it. When you strip away every illusion, every performance, every sweet word meant to comfort weakness, one truth remains. Power in relationships does not belong to the one who feels the most. It belongs to the one who understands the most. Machiavelli taught that to rule others, you must first rule yourself. And that lesson applies not only to politics, but to passion. A man who seeks control over a woman will always lose it. But a man who seeks control over his own nature becomes unshakable. Because the game of attraction, like the game of statecraft, rewards the one who stays calm while others lose reason. Women may admire charm, but they respect control. They may crave affection, but they follow certainty. And the moment you stop chasing their approval, you become the mirror in which they must confront their own reflection. Truth, emotional control, indifference, certainty, and silence. These are not tactics, they are states of mastery. Each one strips away dependence and replaces it with sovereignty. Each one reminds her, and more importantly, reminds you, that a man who cannot be controlled emotionally cannot be defeated psychologically. Machiavelli would tell you love, like power, must be guided by strategy, not surrender. It doesn't mean abandoning empathy. It means guarding your strength. The world will always tempt men to prove their worth through devotion, but a wise man proves it through discipline. When your truth is steady, when your emotions serve you, when your silence speaks louder than desire, you no longer chase connection. You command it. Because in the end, the most dangerous man is not the one who conquers others. It's the one who no longer needs to.